mamas, what's up? I'm so glad to be joined today by Gemma Stone, who is a registered psychologist. She is a Harvard-trained neuroscientist, and she helps people build emotional intelligence and resilience. And she and I have been friends also for many, many years, and she's one of the mamas that I jam with on a regular basis, and we discuss all the ways we are perfectly imperfect while we attempt to raise children who can navigate their way around the world. So Gemma, I'm super glad to have you here today. Why don't you tell us about a time where you feel like you've maybe messed up as a parent and how you've helped repair that and help make it turn out okay?
Yeah, this one, I got a whole bunch of examples. But the one that I think comes to mind and kind of keeps it super real is when I was contemplating getting a divorce. So as a psychologist, did all the training and all that stuff. And I had this huge shame around I can't make this marriage work. And it feels like it's not a healthy place for me, not a healthy place for him. As a shrink, I should be able to figure this out. So I had all these things around my own imperfection with that. And then on top of that, I don't know why, I don't know why I put myself through this, but I ordered this book called The Unexpected Legacy of Divorce. And I read it, and it's, don't bother reading it.
I don't know if I read the book or just every article that told me probably the same thing, which is you have permanently damaged your children for the rest of their lives and there's no coming out of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. But I had this deep knowing of, I had this deep knowing that on the other side of this, something beautiful is there. I don't know what it is. And I have all this input from the outside world of judge and shame and judgment and shame and all these feelings of disappointment and failure and that whole narrative. So I really was convinced I was going to mess up my kids for life. And I also realized I can't stay in this marriage because if I do stay in this marriage, I can't show up as a mother at all. It felt like this really extreme place for me. So at some point I made the call and I'm not advocating for divorce, but the story I want to share is it's not as bad as the unexpected legacy of divorce might lead you to believe in all circumstances. So for what happened for me is we ended up getting divorced. And then in this sort of bizarre twist of fate, I thought it would be a really cool thing if we meaning me and my ex-husband, so he was my ex at the time, sold everything we owned, bought a Volkswagen van, moved into it with the children, and toured around Mexico and the United States on a book tour because I had published a book earlier that year. And it was kind of bananas, to really think I couldn't live in a 3,000 square foot house with this human, but I wanted to live in a 200 square foot van. So I had another story of I think this is going to work, but then I'm going to mess up my kids. And then we're going to be stuck in Mexico in a van and we're not going to have a house. I had all these stories. I'm I'm just going to mess and make more and more and more mistakes and make everything horrible. But the reality is we survived. We had an amazing trip. The boys have all kinds of remarkable memories. They made their own little YouTube series about it. My co-parenting partner and I were able to work through a lot of things. And now our relationship is extraordinary. We are best friends. We talk almost every day. He's the COO of my company. We couldn't do marriage, but we can do life and we can do parenting. And so now our children have two parents that can fully show up because they're not all triggered and messed up in their stuff. We have amazing relationships. We have more family time now than we did before. And I every single freaky story that I told myself about how I was going to mess up my kids did not come true. And in fact, all of us are way better off now than we were when I was trying to make something work that just was not working.
Yeah, I totally can relate to that because I remember having the same experience when my kids were little, and I was also contemplating divorce. And I think I was only a little bit ahead of you. I know that happened in my world a little earlier than it did in yours, but there was a part of me that, I relate to that because there was a part of me that was well, just because that's what other people think the story has to be, it doesn't have to be the future of now. And I think that I do think that as a North American culture, I mean, we're both North American. I know it's different in different countries around the world. But in a North American culture, I think this conversation is finally something that is being talked about and that there are lots of healthy examples of families who figure out how to co-parent in a still very loving way and give their kids everything those kids need. And those kids can still grow up to be very, very healthy, grown-up individuals on the other side of the adults also being their full selves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much wisdom in that. And like the theme of the day seems to be like we get to choose. Like we get to decide how we want the story to go. And we have the pens, we're the authors, and it doesn't have to be the story that everybody else tells it is like, you know, in terms of whether we let our kids, like we did another thing, we took the kids to Nepal, and the story, or I took the kids to Nepal, and the story I got around that was like, you're crazy. Like, why would you take your children to one of the poorest countries in the world that has like incredible challenges, especially after the earthquake? And they were like 5 and 7 at the time. And so like all these narratives around how horrible this and dangerous and traumatic this experience was going to be. And I think we have these narratives around all the things, like we need to be a perfect parent. We need to like cut the sandwiches into stars and put them in their lunchbox and like write a little handwritten note every day. And like, there's all these stories about how we should be. But I think there's this like deeper wisdom inside of us that we have a truth we can follow. And when we follow it, it's up to us to kind of write the story that we want to live, and that we have that power, like you said, and especially in our culture. I think it's different for different cultures, but coming from this orientation, I really think we have so much power over how our story unfolds, as long as we claim it and we don't buy into like all the false narratives and like all the programming about how we're supposed to be perfect so that we have great kids. Because I think great kids come from imperfect parenting.
Very, very true. They really do. What's one thing lesson that your kids have really taught you?
I think it's that lesson around the houseplant piece. Like just give them enough of those basics, like food, shelter, water, sunshine, and just like give them some space to grow. I think one of the things that I had some like kind of anxious pieces around like my own childhood that impacted my parenting. And there was a period of time that I overscheduled them. Like they were in something every day of the week, and I would pick them up from school and I'd race them to swimming lesson. Then I'd have to like get changed super fast, and I'd feed them a snack on the way to piano lessons. And it was bananas. And at some point they let me know that like, it's just too much. And we just want space to hang out and to be with you. And so now we make sure that we have like lots of unstructured time in our schedule. And the amazing thing about that is when I created this space for them, they stepped up. Like one of them started writing stories. Another one opened up a business, like all kinds. Another one, the oldest one opened a couple businesses, and he started up like woodworking. Like they're just doing all these exceptional things that if we don't give them that space to grow, like kind of like the houseplant, like if we're always fussing over it and we're putting in too much water and putting in too much food or fertilizer, like it's not going to thrive. But if we give them just enough of those essentials and then give them space to grow, then they're going to blossom into these like remarkable humans that we just can like step back and sigh because we kept them alive, and they're doing okay.
And then they thrive. I see this in my older kids now where they're even thriving. Like they're so well-rounded, and it's okay to give them that space because that is what creates well-rounded humans. Thank you so much for joining us, Gemma.
Thank you. This was a blast. I loved our conversation, and thank you for putting this together, because I think we need this message in the world that it's not only is it safe, but it's encouraged for us to be imperfect.
I love it. Thank you so much.